Kraken fans, it is officially the 200th game day in Seattle Kraken history. We're going to talk about this matchup between the Calgary Flames, and I got to see Road to the Winter Classic episode 3, and I'm going to break down what I love the most about it and what you should look out for. That and more on today's game day episode of Locked On Kraken.
You are Locked On Kraken, your daily podcast on the Seattle Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are the Seattle Kraken.
What's cracking, Seattle hockey fans, or since it's day 2 of Kwanzaa, Habari Gani, Kraken fans. My name is Erica L. Ayala, your host of Locked On Kraken, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day. Today's episode of this here Locked On Kraken show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Make sure you download the Game Time app, that you use promo code Locked On NHL, and that will get you $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase at Game Time. Habari Gani, as I said, is actually a question in Kiswahili, and it means, what's the news? And today is the second day of Kwanzaa, so Kujichakulia is the news of the day, and that's all about self-determination. And I think this is fitting for a Seattle Kraken team and kind of goes into the theme of today's episode, not just of Locked On Kraken, but the episode of Road to the Winter Classic that will air on national television and be available on YouTube later today. I got to see the screener. I'm going to break down some things for you, and we're going to have a good time. But, we have a lot to talk about. Things are starting to ramp up after the Christmas holiday, and that means that for the Seattle Kraken, at least, it's officially game 200 in franchise history. Congratulations, Kraken fans. We got here. It's been amazing. We'll break down, a little bit of what that's looked like. And we did that on Monday's episode, Voices of Kraken Past, Present, and Future. So if you haven't listened to that, go check it out. But I want to just congratulate fans. I got a little graphic for us. Look at that. We made it to 200. We made it to 200. And for those watching on YouTube, hey, YouTubers, hey, audio listeners, we are almost at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. Have your friends subscribe, all your other Kraken fans subscribe, and let's get to 1,000 before the Winter Classic. So I would definitely appreciate if you subscribe on YouTube if you're not subscribed already. Once we are monetized, that's going to help us grow this channel even more than what we've been seeing. And I'll let you know other ways you can help the channel grow coming up later on the show when I talk about the Winter Classic. Okay, 200 games. I think it's amazing to be here as Kraken fans, and we're not quite at 500 as a franchise in 200 games, or I guess I should say today will be the 200th. So through 199 games, we are 85, 91, and 23. But honestly, given how season 1 went, 85, 91, and 23, I think I'll take it. Just to recall, the Seattle Kraken, 27, 49, and 6 in season 1. We improved that to 46, 28, and 8 in 2022-23. And as we get ready to talk about the Calgary Flames, of course, here is our record as well as theirs for this time in the season. The Seattle Kraken are 12, 14, and 9. We're playing the Calgary Flames, who are 14, 15, and 5. And I spoke about it on the Monday episode a little bit and last week as well. But this is a really great opportunity for the Seattle Kraken to take the games against LA and Anaheim. Almost said LA and LA, but I'll be nice. LA and Anaheim, and to move that into how we can start winning games that, statistically speaking, we're supposed to win. And that could be this game against the Calgary Flames. For those watching on YouTube, I have the amazing work from the PR team, the graphic for today's game up on the screen. If you're listening on audio, whether it's Sirius, SXM, or anywhere you get podcasts, no worries, I'll talk you through it. I mentioned the overall records. Both teams right now sitting at 33 points on the season. We're the away team. We are, as I mentioned the other day, 6-6-6 on the road. The Calgary Flames have been able to protect the Saddle Dome. They're at 8-6-1. Vince Dunn is our leading scorer, and you can see Coleman and Kadri for the Flames, both with 24 points. Going back to Dunn, he has 28. Look at the penalty kill here for Calgary. This is going to be interesting. They're at an 88.3% clip on the penalty kill. They have a better PK than us at 79.2%. They don't have a great power play, but again, our power play has struggled at times to get not. Sometimes we struggle to get quality shots. Sometimes we struggle just to get a shot at all. So I'm very curious to see how we will fare when it comes to special teams. I think our PK has been pretty good, and sometimes we spend too much time on the PK, especially at inopportune moments. So, we're going to talk a little bit more about what I think the breakdown will be. What are some stats that we should look at? And then, of course, any notes and quotes that we had from morning skate today. I will let you know that coming up on this episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Sometimes you're looking for last-minute tickets, or like me, you travel and you realize that you have some downtime and you want to get to see the city, the sights, the sounds, and maybe even your favorite artist while you're in town. That's where Game Time comes into play. Whether you're kind of a last-minute gal like myself, or if you want to plan ahead and just look for flash deals or even zone deals, Game Time is the app for you. If you want Game Time to help you with their own algorithm find the perfect seat for the perfect event, then you can use some of their zone deals or flash deals. If you want to make sure that you have the perfect vantage point to see Little Dragon for the 1200th time, Game Time is the app for you. You can take a look in the app, take a look at the image from your seats before you purchase. And for everyone, the lowest price is guaranteed. Event cancellation protection and even job loss protection also available via Game Time. And you can't beat the Game Time guarantee. If you find a ticket price in the same row in the same section for the same event that is less than the Game Time offer, they will give you 110% of your money back. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Thanks as always, Seattle hockey fans, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. Once again, your host, Erica L. Ayala. You can follow Locked On Kraken at Locked On Kraken on social media. That includes Facebook, Threads, Twitter/X, all of the things. And if you want to follow me, you can follow at Black Rosie Media, because unfortunately I've been kicked out of my Twitter/X account, but you can also follow at eLindsay on Instagram or on, all of the other things, but just follow Locked On Kraken and you can find all the good stuff that you really want. Okay. I also want to let you know though, if you're not already doing so, make sure you check out our 24/7 streaming YouTube channel, Locked On Sports Today. First of its kind comes right here from the Locked On Network. You can listen to myself and Gil and Rachel on every other Friday talk about women's hockey as part of the Locked On NHL show. Or you can listen to some of your other favorite national shows like Locked On Women's Basketball. I used to be a host over there, and it goes on and on. So make sure you check that out. And if you're on YouTube already, subscribe to Locked On Kraken and get us to 1,000+ subscribers. Updates from Calgary. Now, I want to take you over to Kate Shefty, of course, one of the fabulous beat writers covering the Seattle Kraken, and she covers the Seattle Kraken, of course, for the Seattle Times. And Kate Shefty tweeted earlier today at Morning Skate that we actually saw Chris Driedger come off of the ice first. Now, traditionally speaking, the first goalie off of the ice is the goalie that will start the game. So here's, if you're watching on the screen, this is Kate Shefty's tweet. And then she also has the forward lines and the D pairs. Now, I've talked about this before. I have a few messages on Twitter I have to check. Anyway, I've talked about this before. You know, I think Chris Driedger absolutely deserves a shot. I also think Joey Daccord has been playing amazing hockey for us. So it's hard to, quote unquote, punish him after how he's been playing. That being said, we have a game on Friday against Philadelphia, which I'll talk about a little bit at the end of the show. And we have the Winter Classic coming up. Doesn't seem like Philip Grubauer is going to be available before then. So yeah, maybe now is a great time to get Joey Daccord some rest. We see Tatar, Beniers, Eberle stays the same, McCann, Wenberg, Tanev, Tolvanen, Gord, Bjorkstrand, my personal favorite line. It's Cartier, Shore, and Yamamoto, and we saw that Burakovsky, per Kate Shefty, was skating. Good to see him back on the ice. Then we have Dunn Larson, Alexiak, Borgen, Evans, Dumoulin, and Magna Schultz. And then you can see at the bottom of the tweet, she's like, Driedger first off of the ice, ? And then Daccord. She also says, don't expect, I'm paraphrasing. She actually literally tweeted, don't get used to this from me. I suppose speaking of tweeting out the rushes. But I'm glad that she did for this time because I am not in Calgary, headed out to Seattle tomorrow. And I really appreciate this. So I think this makes a lot of sense. We've been saying on the podcast that Driedger does likely, quote unquote, deserve a chance and a shot while he's here in the NHL. Can't hurt to get Daccord some rest. So I'm here for it. And I think this decision could possibly lead into a nice conversation after you watch tonight's episode of Road to the NHL Classic. Or Road to the NHL Winter Classic, excuse me. But I'll talk about that coming up on the show. I do want to just take a look at some of the numbers for this game against the Calgary Flames. And again, in Road to the Winter Classic, you'll hear some of the struggles at times that this team has been having. And I think they're talked about in a really real way. But I want to just kind of show you some of the scenarios that we're seeing in this head-to-head matchup. I'm going to take you over, if you're watching on the screen. These are just some of the notes from tonight's game. And so what you're looking at the top is the home and away record. I told you about that. Let's take a look in the last 5 games. The last 5 games here, you can see what each team has been able to do in their last 5 games. If you're looking on the screen, you can see at the top that the Seattle Kraken are on the left-hand column, or the middle column technically, and the Calgary Flames are on the right-hand column, all the way to the right. And so again, here's what I'm looking at. Last 5 games, the Seattle Kraken 3-0-2. Like that for us. The Flames are 3-1-1. And now here's what I always love to look at. how do teams, but especially our opponents, fare when scoring first, when leading, when trailing? And Dave Haxtell gets to this. Again, I'll talk about it in the next segment. But when scoring first, the Seattle Kraken are 8-5-4. The Calgary Flames are 7-5-3. When the opponent scores first, it seems to matter more for the Kraken, who are 4-9-5 when they allow a goal first, whereas the Calgary Flames are 7-10-2. This one I think is huge. Also, when trailing after the first period, the Kraken are 1-7-4. The Calgary Flames also do not have a winning record, but they are 5-9-2. So look at that. Now, here's another one, massive for the Seattle Kraken. Leading after 2 periods, they're 10-0-3, 5-2-1 for the Calgary Flames, but a big goose egg when trailing after 2 periods. 0-12-3 for the Kraken, 5-13-2 for the Flames. And again, I'm going to talk about this a little bit coming up because Dave Haxtell is going to emphasize in tonight's episode of Road to the NHL Winter Classic, getting on the board first. And they show the California trip, but particularly the game against the LA Kings in that episode. So that, of course, is coming up. And I think, but if I'm looking at that, and again, we'll talk about it in my summary of Road to the Winter Classic. If I'm looking at this, I want the Seattle Kraken to be able to win both sides of specialty teams. I talked about the breakdowns on the power play and penalty kill. It's up on the screen for you again if you're watching on YouTube. As a reminder for those listening on audio, whether it's Sirius SXM or elsewhere, the penalty kill for the Flames, very good at an 88.3% clip. Our power play, though, better than theirs, by almost 10 full percentage points. We're at a 20.8% clip on the power play on the advantage, whereas the Calgary Flames are 11.8%. So I think there's definitely an opportunity for us to win when it comes to the PK battle. And if we find ourselves with a skater advantage, can we take advantage of a Calgary Flames team that performs pretty well on the PK? I want to win the specialty teams battle, and then I want the Seattle Kraken to find the gas pedal and keep their foot firmly planted on the gas. All gas, no brakes for the Seattle Kraken. And I'll break down again why that's important and what Dave Haxtell had to say in the episode of Road to the NHL Winter Classic premiering tonight. That's coming up on today's episode of Locked On Kraken. Today's episode of Locked On Kraken also sponsored by our friends at FanDuel. Right now, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. We know that the weather is definitely getting colder, especially if you're headed out for the Winter Classic, but the FanDuel deals always stay hot. You got spreads, player props, over-unders, and more, including that money line. Now, let's take a look at the odds for today's game. The money line is plus 126 for the Seattle Kraken. It's a minus 152 for the Calgary Flames. The over-under is set at over 5.5 for the Kraken, under 5.5 for the Calgary Flames. And they have all of those over at our friends at FanDuel. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and kick off the rest of the NFL season right. FanDuel, official partner of the National Football League. Thanks as always, hockey fans, for making Locked On Kraken a part of your daily destination. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where we bring you your favorite team every single day with local experts like myself, Erica L. Ayala. And this local experts will actually be local in Seattle on starting tomorrow, starting Thursday. So tonight's my last night here in Tulsa of 2023, and by the time I get back, it'll be 2024, and we will have seen a Seattle Kraken victory, of course, in the Winter Classic. Coming up regarding that, I am going to be on the Locked On NHL show, which I told you can listen to on the Sirius SXM app along with Locked On Kraken, but also you can find it on YouTube and the 24/7 streaming channel Locked On Sports Today. And I'm really excited to get out to Seattle. And I'm really excited because I'm also going to get to see a regular season game. And I think the road to the NHL Winter Classic episode 3 is going to be one that Kraken fans love. We get to see the full coaching staff, including the video coordinators and the video coaches, take us into not just their daily game day routine, so what they are doing today, but also what they do at the intermissions and how quick the turnaround is. And we, as Kraken fans, are spoiled because so many times, especially Allison, Nick also does it too, JT, everybody, Everett, John, they are so good at giving stick taps to the entire Kraken staff. Here's my stick, getting stick taps. They're good at giving stick taps. So we've always kind of gotten a little bit of a glimpse or heard a little bit of a glimpse and a pullback behind the curtain. Well, on today's episode of on today's episode of Road to the NHL Winter Classic, we're going to get to see that. We're going to get to see the Seattle Kraken coaches and a quick turnaround cut video from, I think it was the first period of that game against the Kings, and have Dave Haxtell break things down, splice it up, so then it can be played in the locker room during the intermission. Oh my goodness. I mean, I thought it was fascinating. I loved getting that peek into all of the adjustments, the conversations that are made in game as a part of not just any hockey team, but the Seattle Kraken team in particular. Everydayers and OGers, you know that I've had Allison Lucan on the show, and I kind of asked her, what is the conversation, or what do you hear when you're between the benches? What kind of communication is happening in game? What kind of communication is happening in the locker room? We know the amazing Piper Shaw has done a segment where she's asking the players, what's your routine? You know, some guys drink coffee, some guys want to just keep pacing around. Philip Grubauer talking about how he takes all of the equipment on and changes his clothing that he has on under his pads. I love to see and to hear and to be taken into what goes into it, because it's easy to sit here sometimes as a podcast host and we're being critical of this, we're being critical of that, and you don't really know, which kind of brings me to another part that I really liked about Road to the NHL Winter Classic episode 3. We talked about it on the show before, but why was Ryker Evans, scratched the other day? I saw a comment on YouTube that I thought was interesting. Maybe, we need to get more Justin Schultz for trade value purposes. Very interesting. But on today's episode of Road to the NHL Winter Classic, you actually get to hear from the coaching staff as to why they made that decision and why they picked the game against the Kings to have Ryker Evans be a healthy scratch. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more on tomorrow's episode because I want you to watch and experience it yourself, but just put a pin in that and also put a pin in this. We're going to talk tomorrow on tomorrow's episode about if we indeed do see Chris Driedger. Should we have seen him? If we don't see him, should we have seen him? If we see him, what was his performance like? We're going to break that down, but I want you to remember this episode today in preparation for tomorrow's episode, because I want to break down what perhaps are some of the other reasons that Dave Haxtell and company might want to sit one player against a certain opponent and put in a veteran player, or vice versa, give the young guy the opportunity. So I think it just, to me, it speaks to the attention to development at every turn with the Seattle Kraken organization. And I do mean organization because we're talking right now about the NHL team. But a lot of you know that I've been doing a lot more ECHL coverage, especially when the Mavericks are here in Tulsa, which they just were. So I'm talking to general manager and head coach Tad Ohad. If you listen to Monday's episode, you got to hear from Jessica Campbell, who is with the Firebirds. And every time I learn more about how this franchise, who's about to play our 200th game, I get to learn that it's not just talk, that there are things that you can see are through lines between our three teams. And I should say the NHL team and our two affiliates at the AHL and ECHL level. And as you know, I love this stuff. I love looking at adult learning styles, adult team building, because it gets a bad rap. And in some ways, especially when you are an elite level performer, as NHLers are, it's one of the most important things. One of the most important things to success, not to mention sustained success. So we're gonna have a time giving you I'm gonna have a time giving you my thoughts, but just put a pin in it. Why did the coaching staff say they wanted Ryker Evans to be able to watch a little bit removed as the Seattle Kraken took on the LA Kings? I think you're going to like it. I definitely have some thoughts. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's episode. And if you are a Locked On Kraken insider, then you know we'll also have a Squadcast episode coming up later this week before the Kraken take on the Philadelphia Flyers, a team that Dave Haxel is very familiar with. So insiders have had a chance to send over any questions that they have for Russ and Rachel. I will ask them as we pre-record that episode. If you want to become a Locked On Kraken insider, make sure that you text 918-731-3154. Again, that's 918-731-3154. You can subscribe today. We do game day threads. I'm going to do some more AMAs. We're going to have exclusive content, especially as I get ready to go to Seattle for the Winter Classic. I am going to be in Seattle tomorrow, and there's some really cool activations that I cannot wait to share with our insiders first. And some of it will be exclusive only for Locked On Kraken insiders. So again, text 918-731-3154. You get a 14-day free trial. After that, it's less than $5 a month to be an insider. As I always say, be kind to yourselves, be kind to one another, and it's a game day. So that means we say loud and proud, hold fast, stay true, and let's go Kraken. Enjoy the game. I'll catch you on the next episode of Locked On Kraken. Peace.